Am I the a-hole for telling my husband I regret marrying him after he embarrassed us at a wedding? I 26F have been married to my husband Dan 27M for 2 years. I am black. My family is Muslim, I'm not, but I follow most traditions since it's my comfort zone. Example, I'm not a hijabi. But my husband's family did pay a bride price. Dan is Korean American and spent 10 years living in Korea on off, and his parents are very Christian. But he's not. We talked politics, race, etc. before getting married. I wanted to make sure he wasn't expecting a subservient Muslim wife, and he would not express strict religion, homophobia, transphobia to our children. And never has he said anything indicating racism or prejudice before. Saturday we went to his friend's wedding and we both drank. We planned for that, so it's fine, but he went up to a group of Armenians. I was elsewhere, his friend found me to stop it. Let me in on the insurance fraud secret, why don't ya? Was what I heard him say myself. I was embarrassed and disgusted, but didn't want to make a scene, so I apologized profusely and removed him. Tried talking, but he was too drunk. Reception ends. We go to the after party, which I thought safe since it's only Koreans married to Koreans, and he says more ignorant things. I snap, and one of his friends, John, has the audacity to defend him, saying that I don't get it because I'm black. Dan can say it because they are Korean. John runs a weird right-wing group online and wasn't invited to our wedding because of it, and has held it against me since. I told him he had no place in this conversation, and he told me your black ass shouldn't be talking anyway, and I just burst into tears. I'm not confrontational, and I was kinda drunk too. I felt like crying, so I cried. Dan heard it, they fought, and someone else broke it up. I went outside, and Dan's parents, my in-laws, pulled me and John's wife to the side. All three asked me what happened, and I told the truth. Her husband is a racist POS, and mine, their son, is drinking the Kool-Aid. I Ubered home. Dan texted a lot, and I replied we can talk about it in the morning, and turned my phone off. I left the key with someone I knew would make sure he got home safe, but he spent the night at John's instead. He came home around 7 a.m. Said he ended his friendship with John, doubtful, but keeps saying I ruined the night because I cried, and he has no choice but to fight if I cry, and if I had better control of my emotions none of this would have happened. I said it wouldn't have happened if you weren't being racist. If I had known this was the real you, I wouldn't have married you. And asked for space. Plenty of our friends have reached out and are taking his side. Now I feel alienated. Failed AITA for not being willing to tolerate prejudice from my husband. I don't think I've overreacted at all. He keeps insinuating that a few racial stereotypes is normal for most people, and I'm SJW, but I just feel if he can say that about other Asians, he can say it about my people too, and he's embarrassed me enough already.
Am I the a-hole for calling my wife selfish after she told me to abandon our daughter for a week? English is not my first language, so I apologize for any minor errors you may find. I, 32M, am married to my wife, 30F, and we have a beautiful 3-year-old little girl together. Now, if I'm being honest, our daughter is definitely growing up to be a typical daddy's girl. Her first word was dada, her first steps were spent walking over to me. Whenever she wants a hug, she reaches out to me. And whenever we feed her, my wife struggles to get her to open her mouth to actually eat, while she'll eat anything I try to give her without hesitation. Yesterday, after we put our daughter to bed, my wife asked to speak with me about something important. She pulled me aside and said she was worried about our daughter's behavior. She said she was worried about her growing up not loving her mother as much as her father. I was sympathetic towards her because I definitely thought the same thing for a little while. I told her she should sign up for a mommy and me class, because it would be a great opportunity for them to bond. But she said she's too busy to do something like that. So I asked what she wanted to do, and her answer shocked me. She said she'd like me to leave the house for a week to stay with my sister without telling my daughter first. She said that would practically force her and our daughter to bond. I said absolutely not. To me that sounded like the worst plan in the history of mankind. She tried to convince me, saying it was the best option. I called her selfish and told her she was out of her mind to expect me to abandon our daughter when she's so young for any amount of time. She said that I was actually the selfish one for hogging my daughter's attention and called me an asshole. She then stormed into the guest bedroom and slept there for the night. And today she's done nothing but ignore me, and whenever she sees me do anything with our daughter she glares at me. I'm pretty confident I'm in the right, but I've still got to ask.
Am I the a-hole for telling my brother's wife we can't all have rich parents like her and her siblings? My brother Nicky, 25M, is married to Lisa, 24F. They were at my parents' house on Sunday for dinner, and Lisa really annoyed the crap out of me, something that isn't new. And I said something in anger, and I might be TA for it maybe. So Lisa has a wealthy family. They paid for her and her siblings' college expenses 100%. They paid for Nicky and Lisa's house. They paid for their wedding. They're paying for one of their sons' weddings this summer. They can afford all that. Lisa has always been very open to trying to give her the benefit of the doubt about it. She never hid the fact she came from money and was never shy about saying her parents pay for so much for her and her siblings. Lisa doesn't understand that we're not all that lucky. I'm 19F, work full-time, and I still live with my parents. We couldn't afford college. I didn't get the grades for a scholarship. Struggled enough through school that getting into massive debt for college when I could end up flunking seemed like a bad move for me. So I focused on working, and I applied for a couple of training programs close to my parents' house so I could try and do better without risking debt for nothing. Lisa looks down on me so hard for living with my parents still and for not going to college. Sunday she talked about how all her siblings attended college, how 3 of them are still in college, living there and doing just fine. How they'll be able to buy houses right out of college. How even she and my brother could do it. My parents said politely that not everyone can do all that. But then she talked about being 19 and not in college or living on my own, and how I should really try so much harder. I snapped at that moment, and I told her we can't all have rich parents who can afford to pay our ways through college. For our weddings and for our houses. I told her my parents didn't have that kind of money and neither did I, so we were doing our best in this shitty fucking economy. Lisa told me I'm just lazy and making excuses and she stormed out. Nicky left a while after and he was pretty quiet. Lisa used his phone to send me 30 texts 3 days later demanding I apologize and tearing me a new one for not doing it without being told, and I know it was her because she texts in a very specific way.